All guest services will be stopped. Upon hearing the general emergency alarm, show a wiggle note before proceeding to your assembly station. This
Captain, time is now 1 p.m. We do have clocks forward now, so if you haven't done so already, please do advance watches clocks to 1 minute past 1 o'clock.
Right, no? San Miguel and Pinarco. How's everything? Everything good?
Thank you. Oh, I need a receipt for my color meter.
Oh, okay.
Do we have to?
Here.
Oh, yes.
Remember? So it's on the other side. Okay, so we just have to remember to go here and then go back.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful.
わさび美味しい。
Are they all one here? You say to
Good morning. マイナスに来りゃよかったか。
セブンポイント。
いや、
監督から注意。はい。
Hindi mo dadaan dun eh. Hindi mo dadaan dun.
There are way more clouds. Almost 3 May and then like 4 or 5 May. I'm sorry, not more further away from the sea. Oh no, that's not the one.
This is London Waterloo. Change here for London Underground service. Or text the British Transport Police on 61016.
Yeah, it's going good. Yeah. It's okay, bro. Yeah. To waste time.